But thank you for joining my workshop. The Shift Society presents Align Your Whole Self in 2025. I'm so excited to share so much information with you. There are a few parts that I'm going to move through pretty quickly, just because when I did this workshop before, I felt like I spent so much time on those parts and didn't really get to, I had to then rush through the 12 areas of the whole self. And so before we jump in, I want to do a little housekeeping. Um, Please stay on mute. I understand if you don't want to be on video, I get it. I do enjoy seeing your faces if you do decide to come off of mute. Have notebooks and take notes and write down any questions that you may have, and then be open and engaged. And if you want to get engaged in the chat, you're free to do that as well. And because it is recorded, and if you do decide to come off a video and share anything, I do promise you that that gets edited out for any videos that I may post online because I want to protect your privacy. And so I'm Tyresha Lamar. My friends call me Ty. Um, and I want to give a little background about me. And I'm going to try to keep this part short and sweet. I have been probably um, obsessed with personal development since I was introduced to it. Um, I I'm from Chicago, and I went to a predominantly white all girls high school, Catholic high school. And I was introduced to personal development through a cross country, my cross country coach, who was also my physics teacher, a Filipino woman who grew up in Eastern culture, her shared what I didn't know at the time was considered like yoga. And it was after a particularly grueling cross country practice that she decided to like forego the typical stretching that we did and took us through a slow stretch, which of course I learned was like yoga. But then if you're unfamiliar with yoga, typically one of the last um, poses that you do is called shavasana, and most yoga teachers will tell you this is the most important pose that you could ever do because it requires you to be still and it requires you to trust that you will be held up, by the earth or whatever you're laying on. And that lesson stayed with me for a long time. It stayed with me for a very long time. And it actually, if we fast forward 20 years later to 2018, I found myself laying on the floor of my apartment, remembering Shavasana, remembering trusting myself, because at that time I was going through what I learned was considered the dark night of the soul. And if you're familiar with Michael Bernard Beckwith's book Life Visioning, then you will have heard of the dark night of the soul, or read about it. And before I understood that's what I was going through, I thought that I was depressed. I was uninterested in my work. I was jaded with it. And I didn't feel like my life was exciting. I felt like I was just going through the movements on autopilot. I was just, just over it. Like you just wake up with a bad taste in your mouth. And it happens to be like a Sunday night, and this is something I also didn't know about the Sunday night blues. I think I was going through the Sunday night blues at this particular time. And I just remember, and I'm a routine person. I love routine. So I always had my Sunday night routine of packing my lunch, getting my clothes out for the work week, And I remember sitting on the arm of my sofa and I'm sorry, sitting on the arm of my sofa and just, I just remember feeling so tired, so tired. I did not feel like doing this work. I did not feel like getting up and, in Chicago, you could take, public transportation if you head down, if you're working downtown. And I didn't feel like doing none of it. And I made my way to my bedroom. I think I made my way up there to initially cry, just cry about life. But I decided to just lay there and get still. And during that time, the lesson that my cross country teacher and physics teacher taught me at the time, and I got still, laying on the floor, and I remember there was this urge. Some people call it like a voice or a download or just an inkling or knowing. But for me, it was just this urge to get up and figure out like I can't stay in this. So figure out what what you want to do in life. What part of your life is feeling out of alignment? And so I started writing the different areas of my life that felt out of alignment. And when I finished looking at the list, it was 16. It was 16 areas out there. To me, that felt like my whole life. Like, how does my whole life feel a mess? And but I was like, okay, 16 is a lot. That's that's too much. And so I was like, let me condense some areas, that make, sense, to put together. And I counted through the list again, and it was 12. And I was like, okay, 12 might still be a lot, but this feels more aligned. Like 12 feels doable. I feel like 12 is such a feel good number for us naturally just because 12 shows up in so many areas, of our lives just as humans living, 12 um, months in a year. I can't think of anywhere else off the top of my head. 12, 12 days of Christmas. Um, but that's how the 12 areas of the whole self was born. And for me, that's when everything in my life during this time that I thought I was depressed but going through my dark night of the soul, that's where I created what I felt like was a roadmap to fix my life. And I've been following that roadmap for 6 years. And I'm here today because I have decided to create the Shift Society around this roadmap and share it with as many people that are aligned to receive that information. So that's why I'm here with y'all today. And so what is the Shift Society? This is that the Shift Society is where, like I said, where I take this idea of life alignment through 12 areas of the whole self and turn it into action. To me, the Shift Society is a community that building from the ground up. It's a community. It is a movement and it's a toolbox all in one. And it is for people who are done dreaming about what they want to do with their lives and they're ready to do something a little different, because it's not like you haven't been doing something. You've been working, you've been trying to make things happen that just may not have been happening as fast or as smoothly as you would have liked them to. um, And so the mission of the Shift Society, and this is part of the area where I'm going to, be kind of moving pretty quickly because I want to get to the 12 areas of the whole self. But the mission It is for the unapologetically ambitious, or what I like to say as the soon to be unapologetically ambitious. Um, because we help people who know and feel like they are here to do something big, help you do that, help you create a map to bridge where you are right now to where you know you're meant to be. And in the 12 areas of the whole self, I'll show you how you know that you know where you're meant to be. And so there are four core values for the Shift Society. And so this part I do want you to take notes because I have four questions. And if you have anything that you'd like to say, um, please put in the chat. I'm leaning over right now to open up the chat. So the four core values of the Shift Society are alignment, clarity, boldness, and transformation. I'm going to go through these quickly, and then the questions I have for you, I want you to write those down. And maybe over the next, tonight, over the next day or so, I want you to reflect and write, and answer these questions for yourself. And so alignment is about living a life that feels most authentic to you, where your actions, your choices, and your values all work together to create something purposeful and fulfilling to you. And so the question that I want you to write down is, what's one area of your life that just feels out of alignment? One area of your life, even without knowing what the 12 areas are. We're all human, so you kind of have a good idea of what the 12 areas are. Write down one area that just may feel completely out of alignment. And you've probably been feeling that for a while. And if you like, you can share in the chat. I haven't figured out how to keep my tablet on. Clarity. To me, I love using this analogy or metaphor. I gotta look up to remember which one it is. But clarity is like turning on the lights in a dark room. It is when like it all starts to make sense for you. And that is what I want this life alignment map to life alignment framework to be like for you, to help provide some clarity around where you like to see your life go. And the question that I want you to write down and reflect on is, if someone asked you to describe your vision for your life in one sentence, could you do it? Now repeat that. If someone asked you to describe your vision for your life in one sentence, could you do it? And then boldness. To me, bold is the only way to live this life. And what I've learned time and time again is that pursuing the vision for your life requires courage, even in the face of feeling fear or nervousness, or limiting beliefs that you may have to work through while you're being courageous, while you're being bold. And the question for this core value that I want you to write down is, what's one bold action you've been putting off because it feels scary? What's one bold action you've been putting off because it feels scary? And can I tell you that for me, it is hosting workshops. Like I said, I've been living the 12 areas of the whole self, this life alignment framework for 6 years. 5 years ago, I had the call to host workshops, but I was too afraid. I was too afraid to move forward with it until I just decided to take a bold step and just do it. And then the last core value is transformation. Transformation is the process of shedding just what no longer serves you. what is not going to serve you when you decide to move forward towards a life of alignment that you decide for yourself. And the question that I would like for you to reflect on is, what's one thing you need to let go of to step into your next level? What's one thing you need to let go of to step into your next level? Okay, let's see what our time is looking like. Ooh, good, we're going good time. So recap, shared a little bit about myself, a little bit about the Shift Society and its mission and its four core values. I want to jump into the 12 areas of the whole self, and this is, before we jump into them, I want to do a little exercise with you all. So I hope you're in, quiet spot. I hope your mind is open, um, because I want to give you a glimpse of what it is like to hear your life's vision, just a glimpse. And if you meditate, then you're very familiar with this process. And so, um, if you're with me, can I get a thumbs up or something in the chat if you're ready? If you're ready to do this, let's see. Thumbs up, anybody?
I don't know if you saw my thumbs up, but we ready.
Oh,
We
oh,
ready.
there you go. There you go. All right.
We're here. We're ready.
All right. Thank you. All right. Let's take a deep breath. And with a deep breath, if you've ever heard of theta, or theta breathing is what it's like. When you take the deep breath, I want you to take a deep breath, like to the count of three, but then inhale in. And then when you exhale, I want it to be to the count of six. And just keep squeezing until all the air is out of your body. And what this does is it helps us come inward to kind of quiet out the noise, because that's what you're going to need to do, is to come inward. Um, so when I say take a deep breath in and out, and we're going to do that 3 times together, okay? So let's take a deep breath. You can close your eyes as well. So let's take a deep breath in. We'll count of three. And a deep breath out through your mouth to a count of six. Deep breath in. And deep breath out. Let's do that one more time. Deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And I want you to imagine yourself at this door, a beautiful golden door. Behind it are so many possibilities. So many possibilities. You are too excited to try to consider them all. And I want you to put your hand on the door and open it. And as you step through this door, you find yourself in one of the most peaceful places you've ever been. And in this peaceful place, you see a tree. Maybe it's off to the right somewhere. Beautiful, huge tree. Provides the perfect amount of shade. and you see someone sitting over at this tree and they invite you to join them. It is a warming invite. It makes you feel safe, this invitation. You walk over, you find yourself, you're right there already. And you look at this person, and you realize it is you. You have invited you to sit in the most beautiful place under a shade tree. You have written a message to yourself, an intention for your time here with this workshop. Maybe it's just one word, maybe it's a phrase or a full message, but it's the exact message that you needed to hear. And I want you to take a little bit of time to read it and to take it in. And now I want you to give yourself a hug. You gotta go now. So you head back to this beautiful golden door, knowing that you can always return to this most beautiful place. And you open the door, and you are immediately back earthside in this body. You take a deep breath, and you can open your eyes. Now, whatever message you received, whatever intention, whatever download, word, phrase, I want you to write that down in your notes. Sorry, I always get a little teary eyed when I do that. And I want you to keep mind, keep that message in mind. And that exercise, that is what the first area of the 12 areas of the whole self, that is what that's about. Your life vision, there's an entire process in the book, Life Visioning by Michael Bernard Beckwith. And there's a reason why I consider this area the North Star, the 12 areas of the whole self. Because through the life visioning process, you go through an exercise of hearing from your highest self, source, God, Allah, whatever you call this highest, higher power that we're all connected to, even when we don't feel we're connected to it. There's a process of getting your life's vision during this process where I'm sorry, there's so much I want to say about it. Um, oh my gosh, and I don't know why I'm so emotional. That's always just such a moving, that's always such a moving exercise for me to go through. But your life vision is what feeds every other area in the 12 areas of the whole self. And so for me, I'll share, when I got my life vision, when I went through this process 6 years ago to get my life vision, and I'll share with you all my life vision because that is something I've been sharing for the past 6 years. Um, my life's vision is to be a successfully global businesswoman, a loving and supportive wife, and a doting mother to healthy, beautiful, intelligent, and purpose driven children. That is literally like what I write down as my life vision. And every other goal I create supports this life vision, supports this North Star. If it doesn't, I don't waste my time pursuing it. And that's what I want you to think about with when it comes to life visioning. So the second area is wellness. And wellness isn't just about a number on a scale or, inches around your waist. It's about honoring the three bodies that carry us through this life. We have a physical body, a mental body, and a spiritual body. Your physical body houses, your 12 systems, like your neurological system, your lymphatic system, your skeletal, your muscular, and then your mental body. It carries all of your emotions, and your spiritual body, which holds your soul. All three of these matter, because all three of them are required to fulfill your life's vision. And so when you're thinking about this area and when you create goals in this area, you want to be mindful of how you're taking care of each of these bodies. The third area is spiritual path. Oops, took away my note. And I have to have notes because I love talking about this and I will ramble and keep going and going and going. But your spiritual path is your unique relationship with a higher energy. Like I said, people call this higher energy higher source. They call it God, Allah. Some people call it nothing. Some people call it universe. But it is your connection to something greater than yourself. And it is unique to you. Some people are led to a spiritual path through religion. Some just come to it innately. They're just born, to it. Some people come through while they're leaving religious practices. It doesn't matter because again, it's unique to you. And the main thing is easy to respect others, their spiritual path, when you respect your own as being unique. The fourth area of the 12 areas of the whole self is intellectual knowledge. We live in the information age where we have access to everything. We have access to, they have all kinds of university. You got YouTube University, you got TikTok University. I don't know if they call Instagram University, but you've got your gurus on Instagram and your gurus on Facebook and, and everywhere else. Intellectual knowledge is about having discernment about the information that you are consuming and whether or not it's moving you closer or further away from your life's vision. And so when it comes to intellectual knowledge, it's just about being mindful of you know, listen, we all like to scroll, okay? For some of us, it's a nice, way to just relax and move on. But if you find yourself doom scrolling or scrolling for hours, on end, you have to pull yourself back and figure out what kind of information are you bringing into yourself, into these bodies that we talked about a couple of areas ago. And so with intellectual knowledge, like I say, you want to have discernment, but you want to be purposeful about, the information that you consume with this area. The fifth area is love relationship. And of course, this is all about, love, starting with yourself. When you practice self care and self love, which I believe are two different things that can go hand in hand, you set the tone for how others love you. Um, when I am a big believer. I am married. I am in a relationship, and I often talk to my husband about boundaries, not because he pushes them or anything, just because I am a woman who is changing, and I feel like I'm changing all the time, and that requires different practices of self care and self love. And I have to constantly communicate, with him when I'm going through, one of those changes and, the what I may need depending on the type of love that I'm giving myself, the type of love I want to give, or the type of love I want and need, to receive from him. But I believe it's been good practice to share that with him because what I've noticed over our time, being together 7 years, um, he does the same thing back, and that's the impact that we have on those in our lives. When you can when you can give the example of how to treat you because people just see, how you treat you, and that's what this area is about. Um, Area 6 is social and community. One of my favorite areas because I like to look at this area as like a garden that you plant, nurture, and weed. It's about building intentional relationships with people who add value to your life and who align, with your vision. Um, I am one of those people who um, has, guess I should say, like a lot of close friends. And it really is true. And I can tell you from personal experience that intention, it takes intentional nurturing to have a garden of friends that you truly love. You have your genuine individual relationships with these people. But this area is, I know we talked about discernment in another area, but this area requires discernment as well because it requires you to figure out who belongs in your life to nurture the relationships. And then sometimes you have to pull out some weeds. If there are people in your life who are muddying the other areas or they're crowding whatever you're trying to bloom, it requires a bit of weeding, as well. Um, so that's that area. And a quick little, exercise you can think about, who are these people, these flowers, these roses that you have in your life, that, and I believe everyone in my life, helps me directly or indirectly, and most of the time it's indirectly, um, pursue my life's vision. I have, a group of friends, my college buddies who we've been friends for, either over 20 years now, um, where they don't directly, um, a couple of them are on here tonight, they don't directly, um, like help me fulfill my life's vision. It's indirectly by them being my friends and we're spending intentional time together. They help me replenish my energy. They're not people who drain my energy. And when I can be around people who help me replenish some energy, then I have those affirmations and confirmations of love between friends to help me then go on and pursue my life's vision. So that's area 6, social and community. The seventh area is wealth. And to me, wealth isn't just about money. Wealth is about freedom. It's about reprogramming limiting beliefs around money and understanding that our worth isn't tied to a number. All of us have our own beliefs that are typically set in your childhood around money. um, for many of us, unfortunately, it's a lot of limiting beliefs. One main one that I like to bring up is when so many of us grew up hearing like money doesn't grow on trees. And it's a fairly harmless belief, or you can think it's fairly, harmless because it sounds fairly harmless, but it's a scarcity belief that, it lets you know that money, because we know that trees are bountiful. There is a belief that there are more trees on earth than there are stars in the sky. So we know that there are a lot of trees. And to hear money doesn't just grow on trees can put the limits and belief within you that money is scarce. And if I want it, I have to work really hard for it. And those are the only people who get money is those who work really hard for it. I'm going to do a whole other workshop just on money and alignment and manifestation and all of that because it could hours and hours you could talk about that. But that's what this area is it that and I want to dive in so deep with you, but this workshop mainly is about just introducing the 12 areas for you. But for wealth, it's about freedom, reprogramming those limits and beliefs, and manifesting the abundance that you deserve. The eighth area, I'm going to take a sip of water here, sparkling water. The eighth area is career and mission. For some people, your career and your mission is one and the same, and for others, is separate. Either way, this area is about finding alignment between what you do and your purpose. And so, you know how people have, these hills that they will die on, like, I will die on the hill. For me, I always say this is the hill that I will die on. When people say, like, what's my purpose in life? What's my purpose in life? I always say, I've got it for you because everyone's purpose in life is exactly the same. That our purpose in life is that we are here to evolve physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That's our purpose in life. The difference is your choice. This is where free will comes in. It's how will you fulfill this purpose of evolving? That's the choice. You could fulfill it in your career. You could fulfill it in your mission. You can make them one in the same. Or you can have a career that's about making money, building wealth, and a mission that's about serving and serving people and evolving like how you want to if your evolution is through serving people. But it's up to you. The purpose coming here to evolve, that's not. But the free will of how it will happen is up to you. All right, area 9 is quality of life. And I absolutely love this area. I love all the areas, obviously. But quality of life is this is where you just really decide that you want to live. You want to enjoy this life. You want to cultivate joy and live fully. I have this list that I call my 100 things list, and I forget the man's name who invented the 100 things list, but he was inspired by the bucket list. If you've ever seen that movie, and I think it's Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson, the bucket list, where they make this list of things that they want to do and accomplish before they kick the bucket, which, is the saying for, die. But on this list, I have a list of 100 things that I know will cultivate joy, that will help me live fully. I think I broke it down into like 30 things that I want to do, um, 30 things that I want to be, 30 things I want to have. And then I got like 10 really big things. And like one of my 10 really big things, and don't laugh at me because we listen and don't judge, is I want to be invited to Beyonce's 50th birthday party because I know it's going to be epic. Let me have my things, okay? But some other things on my list are to get a yoga certification, is to learn ballroom dancing. Um, I have I don't have time to pull up the list now, but um, when you're thinking about this area, maybe you might decide to pursue a 100 things list. It's not anything that I put together all at one time, so don't attempt to do that. It was something I put together over time, and that I just worked through it. Like one of the things that I'm working on now is learning how to do pottery, just because I love, creating, with my hands. I used to make jewelry because I love, just being creative, with my hands. And so that's the quality of life. Mainly, it's about cultivating joy and living fully. Okay, area 10 is about your life roles. So I know we talked about love relationship, which is about your intimate life roles, with yourself and with maybe a romantic partner. Life roles is about being mindful of the many other hats, that you wear, whether that's as a parent, as a partner, as a professional, as a leader, as a friend. This area is about being intentional and being balanced, with those roles, and in determining which ones need more attention, which ones are thriving, which ones again might need to be pruned. Um, I like to look, at this area. I think this area is one of the most important, especially in this day and age. I was just reading about, and you all can let me know if you've heard of this. The Surgeon General of the U.S., maybe last year or the year before, um, put out like a notice because it has become such an epidemic that he called it the loneliness epidemic. That people, there was a survey done, and 50% of Americans said that they were lonely. And I think the truth of it plays out on social media, which is a gift and a curse that, in many ways it makes us feel connected. And I do believe people really do can build, genuine connections. But I also think that if you don't have the tools for building connections, that you realize how easily those online connections can fall apart, especially if it's not a connection that's happening on both ends. Um, and so when it comes to life, what I realized, with those people who said that they, felt lonely, I just wondered, like like who are the people that they have in their lives, and are they nurturing, those relationships, because they are important. The different hats that we choose to wear, they can be overwhelming, but they're important, nonetheless. So the 11th area is emotional intelligence. Your emotions are what I call your life's co-pilot. How you manage your emotions, and all of them are valid. How you manage them, to me, can determine whether your journey through this life is smooth or rocky. I often reflect on my emotions, especially since I have two toddlers at home. Okay, so it can be. I'm managing a lot of emotions right now in my life. Okay, I'm managing my emotions, the emotions of my husband. I'm at emotions of a 4-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and then I have an 11-year-old bonus daughter, and so it's a lot of emotions to manage. But I realize it's easier to manage my reaction to the emotions of others. When I've validated my own and when I managed my own well, it becomes easier to manage not those just in my household, but also at work too, considering the state of our nation. And the 12th area is creative life. This like quality of life is about play, it's about innovation, it's about discovery, wandering, and wonder. This is where you just give yourself permission to tap into we talk about tapping into that inner child. This is where you give yourself permission to do just that, to tap into to the inner child. And um and so I did this in the last workshop, because this is our last area and I think we're doing great on time. um I want you to share. You can come off of mute. I want you to share a creative activity that you love or that you have always wanted to try. Anybody want to go first? You don't have to put your video on, and you can just take yourself off of mute.
This is Cameron Hatai. How you doing?
Hey, Cam.
I have exercised, I guess, creativity and freedom of my body using tools like yoga over the past few years. And I understand
Nice.
like there's a lot of salutations in yoga that are uniform, but just using it as a way to like continue to like freely flow both the art of my body, but also my breathing. Um, and I love where it's taking me, like from a mindset perspective, but also from like a health perspective.
Mhm.
Um, and I am proud of the progress that I've made over like the past 6 months.
Thank you. That's dope, Kim. I have felt that same way about yoga. I have started and stopped doing the 100 days of yoga. One of these days I'll get back to it, but I'm always just so surprised that like just discovering, what my body is capable of doing and healing through yoga. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to share?
Hi, this is Faith.
Hi, Pinky.
Want to share two things. One, I would say like my planner. Um, my cousin, she gave me a planner and she thought she was really doing a great thing. But for me, I cherish my planners. I like the one that I have. It gives me half this year and half the following year because the way my life is set up, I also have a lot of friends and engaged in a lot of different things, and I need to place those dates on my calendar so I can make sure I don't overbook myself. And um, just sharing, I like the um, day designer calendar because they also have like stars and payday, birthday, all these other things. But I'm very like a polished person, so it's like all in gold, so it's still all in alignment. So I don't feel like overloaded. In the past, I used to do all these different ones, but I don't like all the noise, and so that's one. And the second is actually doing a vision board to just see what I want to occur in that year and also to be able to reminisce on the visions I had in the past. And once it starts to come into fruition, I can identify like, oh, so case in point, I had a BMW X3 on my vision board in 20, I want to say 15. And then I
Oh
actually
wow.
purchased one in like 2020, and it was like 5 years after the fact. But I remember going to the car show, getting in, and I was like, oh my God, I could just envision me looking so cute, playing my music. I want a white and all this stuff. And I got the exact one that I wanted. Black tinted windows, let's go. And so I hold those things dear to me because it's like I'm seeing the vision, I'm setting it, and now I have a mission to get those things accomplished.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that because um, material things are a great way to just playfully express, they're one way, one of the many ways that we get to express ourselves. And I think, especially with creating vision boards, those are so popular, the vision board parties. And I think they're so popular because they do remind us of childhood, of flipping through magazines and being able to cut out stuff and to dream. And when you're gluing and you grown now, so you might be listening to some grown folks music and drinking some wine while you're doing this. But those are just more exercises of playing and dreaming, which is great, great activity. So if we have no one else who wants to share, um, I'll keep moving on since we're doing so great on time. So what's next? So